Hey everyone, we are back with the Feel the Smile YouTube channel, and this week's episode is what we are titling Behind the Smile. In each Behind the Smile episode, we are going to get to sit down and chat with one of our Feel the Smile girls and really just hear a little bit about her story, her life, how she came to know Jesus, how she currently walks with Jesus, and we just hope that this will be an inspiring and encouraging episode for you wherever you are in your faith journey and walking with God. So I'm so excited for today. We have our friend Mattie Vail.
Hello.
And she is a faithful Feel the Smile girl. She comes to Bible study, she comes to social, and Feel the Smile truly wouldn't be the same without you. So thanks for coming on. Thanks
Yes,
for being our friend. Thanks for coming early and staying late.
of
I'm so
course.
grateful for you, and I'm just excited to have you on the little YouTube tonight. But before we jump into our questions, tell us a little bit about who you are, what season of life you're in, what do you do for work? Do you work or are you in school? I know the answer to these, but just let the girls watching and listening know.
So, obviously, my name is Maddie. I am 21 and I am no longer in school. I had a little bit of college experience and decided to leave school and start working full time. So, I currently work for my dad and I am in the insurance world. I know we have some other insurance girlies in our Feel the Smile group, so shout out to all of them. But I am recently engaged and planning a wedding.
Show the ring.
This is the ring. Caroline, the other Feel a Smile girl on the podcast or YouTube, I guess, is my wedding planner, and she's
Yay.
just really trying to help me out. So that is the season of life that I'm in. So crazy, hectic, but so fun, and so glad I get to do it with these girls.
Yes, we're so glad to do it with you too. And one thing that you already said that I want to point out and make girls feel seen on the podcast is you said that you started in school for a little bit and then the Lord like took you a different direction in life. I think a lot of the girls that are listening are in college or young adults or maybe even seniors in high school that are getting ready for that. One thing that I do for my full-time job is I get to work with a lot of college students and young adults. And I think so many times the world that we live in, we feel like our college and young adult experience has to look one way. And you're such a beautiful example of the fact that it doesn't have to look the way I think that our like Southern westernized culture and
Yeah.
society makes it look. And you are allowing the Lord to use your life in such a beautiful way, and getting to do it in such a sweet season of working with your dad and being at home. And I just love that so much. So for any of the girls listening that are like, college is not my thing, but I feel like I have to go because all my friends are going. Number one, you don't have to. God can still use you. And it's okay to not have everything figured out when you're 19 years old. I
Yeah.
always say, like, even those girls that do choose to go to college, and I mean, I went to Sanford, and even at Sanford, I didn't know what I was doing or what I even really wanted to do at 19. So many people go to college and change up their pathway of life in general. So I love that so much.
Yes.
And you're getting ready to be a wife. God's preparing you and
Yes.
using you in this
Yes.
season.
There's a lot going on. But
Yes.
also taking a leap of faith is sometimes just what you need to do. And it's great to do that with people who support you in that. So have a good group of people who you can lean on in that, because that is huge.
People are everything.
Yes.
People matter. Who
Yes.
you surround yourself with matters. That's so great. Okay, let's jump into a little bit of your faith journey. Tell us all the things. How did you come to know Jesus? When you met Jesus, what did that look like when you started walking with him? Were you little? Were you in high school? Were you in college? What was kind of like your faith like at home? Just give us the nitty-gritty of your faith life.
So I feel like this is very like cliche. But I grew up in a Christian household. I was raised by parents who are married and who are still married, which, is so huge, especially as a child getting to walk with the Lord, and getting to watch their relationship with Jesus just really helped my sisters and I know what that was supposed to look like. Um, and through that, I obviously grew up in church, Sunday morning, Sunday school, community groups, Wednesday night church. Like, we were at everything. Like, attendance, like,
Y'all were there.
we were top in attendance. But that obviously trickled into our lives all through school. And in middle school, I was at a Discipleship Now retreat, and that is when I gave my life to the Lord. And then later got baptized in high school and actually had the honor of getting baptized with both of my sisters, and my dad actually baptized all three of us
That's
at
so
our church.
sweet.
So that is my walk with Jesus just throughout life, and really just how I committed my life to the Lord. It was, really special to get to do that with family and get to walk through that throughout the years with them, because that is how the Lord intended it for all three of us. It was just such a blessing to get to do that with my sisters and my parents there to lead us.
Sweet. That's so sweet. I love that so much. And I honestly love how you started off by saying, like, this is kind of cliche, because no one's story is cliche, and everyone has such a unique faith journey and story. Even if it does start with, I grew up in church, my parents loved God, we always went to church, I met Jesus at a young age. But I think even through that, like, who God is to each of us is so unique, and when and how he chooses to reveal himself to us is so different and unique. And I met Jesus at 9 years old, but I always say, like, when you meet Jesus one time, you meet him 10 times over. And there was a version of Jesus I met at 9, and then there was a new version of Jesus I experienced at 12, and then another version of Jesus that I experienced at 16, and then again at 18 and 21, and still now you're just experiencing new waves of God's mercy and grace and just character in your life. So what was that like going into high school when you, like, was there a season of your life when you kind of went from, like, I believe in God and know that he exists, and like my parents know God, but how did that become real for you in your walk? And what was that like maybe that D Now weekend, or when you chose to, like, take a public step of baptism? Just kind of talk through a little bit of what it was like when Jesus became a little bit deeper to you and for you.
Yeah, so I think, when you grow up in the South and you grow up in a family that church is not an option, like you're there every Sunday, it can really become a routine. And I think for me, it was something that I was there and just going through the motions. But I think really once I met Jesus at that discipleship now, it really just like shifted how I walked with him. And through that, it was not just a routine or just checking it off of my to-do list for the week and like, oh, I went to church on Sunday morning, I went to my community group, and then I went to Wednesday night church, and I checked all the boxes. Jesus loves me. And for me, it was really just like, hey, like, this is a relationship, like, not just like a thing on my to-do list that I need to mark off. Like, I get to meet with him. It's not a have to or something that, my parents expect of me. Like, of course they want all of us to have a relationship with him, but for me, it really became my relationship with him, and not what was expected of me by parents or leaders in the church. Like, it was now on me, and it was something that, I desired and knew, like, he was calling me to, and it really was, like, it shifted my perspective on my relationship with him. And so I think just after that, it's really become more personal and intentional.
Yeah, that's so great. I love how you mentioned that, like, how you got to a point in your faith where you realized, okay, like, this is no longer on my mom and dad, like, this is on me. And I think that is a level of spiritual accountability, authority that we all have in our relationship with God. Yes, we can grow up knowing Jesus, but there becomes a point in our life where we have to be the ones who choose to go to church, and we have to be the ones to choose to be plugged in or to study our Bible Monday through Saturday, not just on a Sunday. And I love so much that you kind of pointed out that you had a moment like that for your life. And I mean, I remember growing up, like, I always loved going to church and reading my Bible and different things like that. But I also think in high school too, I had a moment where I realized, like, how much Jesus has something set apart for me, and just that we will forever be learning more about God's heart for us. We will never know everything about Jesus here on earth, at least, and there will always be more of him to discover and know, but the one that has to seek that out and find it is us. And that's such a privilege that we even get to have the opportunity to do that. But okay, I want to dive into talking just about relationships, community, friendships, and different things like that. What did that community look like for you in high school? And then what does that kind of look like for you in like young adulthood now, and how has community helped? How has it hurt? I know that I've had different communities in my life. Some of them have been great and pushed me towards Jesus. I've also gone through seasons where some of them haven't been so great and have pulled me away from God. Just talk a little bit about like your journey with community and your faith.
I think community is something that in high school I feel like I was lacking. I think it was I I started dating my fiance when we were freshmen in high school, so I always had a friend in him. But I think when it came to personal relationships with girls, like I had that within my church, and that was about it. Which, what better people to have in your life than believers? But once I got to college, it was really like a struggle for me to put myself out there and find community. And I found great community while in school, but coming out of school and entering a season where I was moving back home when everyone who I knew from years past was still in school, that was something where, my idea of community really shifted because I felt like I had none. And so coming back home and really having to put myself in a position to find community where I had never had to before was really uncomfortable and also a little nerve-wracking because it's like where do I go? Like
Yes.
who do I find that
Yeah.
with? And then I got introduced to Feel the Smile, and that's when I was, had the opportunity to really meet girls that were not in the necessarily the same exact season as me, but walking in similar seasons spiritually and needing to also find what I was looking for. And I think in that came with community with girls who I've now, consider some of my bestest friends. But I think finding community is hard, and when you do find a good community, you just have to be committed to, pouring time into it because friendships are hard.
They are.
And, girls are, it's something that I've struggled with over the years is finding good girl friends. And when you find a good group of girls, you just have to stick with them. And this is a good group to stick with.
Yes.
It's been great.
Come to Feel the Smile.
I haven't missed one.
No, she gets entered into the Bible study giveaway every month. Okay, I want to talk more about Feel the Smile in a second. I want to hone in a little bit about community because, like you said, community is hard.
Yeah.
It's hard to find. In high school, I always say your community is like who you have biology class with.
Literally.
And like if your high school is anything like mine, the people in your biology class in 7th grade were the same ones in biology class in 12th grade. And I'm so grateful I had great people in my biology class. But let's be honest, that's pretty rare.
Yeah.
So growing spiritually is almost even more so on yourself and just the environments that you kind of are around in at church if your family goes to church.
Yeah.
Because you don't necessarily have the upper hand in picking and choosing who your friends are, which I think is where our soul can kind of feel this like tug from one way to the other. And then you get to college and you can find more of a group of friends that, you would genuinely be friends with or can encourage you, or maybe y'all are just interested in the same things. But I think you also go through a lot of loneliness in college as well. I always say, like, I had never been so lonely yet so surrounded by people until I was in college. And that wasn't because I didn't love the people that I was with or didn't love my friends. It was just, the direction that we were going spiritually was just a little different. And they loved God and they were amazing, but it was just different. And then I feel like when you get to young adulthood, it's the first time in your life where you really are like pretty lonely because you've lived the last 4 years of your life surrounded by so many people. And even when you're lonely, you're surrounded by people. But in young adulthood, when you're lonely, you're probably not surrounded by a lot of people.
Yeah.
Or if you are surrounded by people, it's work moms
Yeah.
or older people, not necessarily like other young adult girls. And so that's when your faith and community, I feel like, can kind of be put to the test. You don't know where to look for it.
No.
I always like to say, like, when you don't know where to look for something, you look in all the wrong places. And it's honestly most of the time like unintentional. You just kind of don't know what you don't know. And so I love that you were able to find Feel the Smile and be able to find a good solid group of girls in a season of your life when you needed it most. I know for me, like, I feel like one of my like young adult community hacks is when I was in college, my last semester of college, I joined a small group at my church with girls that weren't in college. So these girls were already working. One of them's like was like a year older than me. Two of these girls are now like some of my best friends, but I think too, it's just hard. It's just really hard to find community as a young adult girl. Not to mention if you kind of just feel alone in your job, or you feel like on social media everyone loves their job and you hate yours, or just don't feel satisfied in it. Or maybe you're single and you feel like all your friends are dating or getting married or whatever that may look like. Tell us a little bit about when you first heard about Feel the Smile. Were you nervous to come? What made you even want to come? And just talk a little bit about like boldly stepping out in spaces to find community, even if you had like no idea how it was going to go.
So Maggie Masters, she's one of the other Feel the Smile girls. We actually went to high school together and we're friends. Gosh, we started being friends in like middle school and kind of drifted as we graduated and went off our separate ways to college, but reconnected back at home as we attend the same church. If anybody wants to tag along to ACC, we're there every Sunday.
Yes.
But we reconnected, and at church one Sunday, she was like, hey, so I got added to this group to start going to this Bible study. She's like, but I'm a little nervous to go by myself. She's like, would you want to tag along? And I was like, why not? And so we decided to come. Well, we were like, let's just meet and ride together so that it's not as awkward if we go in together. Yeah. And so we got in the car, got here, and we had no idea where we were going. And I was like, Maggie, we're going to have to call this girl that's putting this on. Like,
did y'all call me?
Yes. So we're in the car, and we're like driving circles. Yes. So we get in the car and we're like driving up. If you've never been to Feel the Smile, it's a little confusing, like where you're supposed to meet at first. Like our first week, Scarlet lived in a different spot and we were meeting at her apartment. And so we had no idea. So we get here and she was like, I'm not calling. Like, she was so nervous.
Never be afraid to call
I'm
me,
sorry,
guys.
Maggie. I'm calling you out if you're listening to this. But so I pick up the phone and I was like, okay, sorry, girl, I have no idea where we're going. She's like, it's fine. Like, I'll come outside and greet you. So she, like, comes outside, like, flags us down. And we, like, sat in the car before we came in. And she was like, it's going to be fine. Like, it's going to be fine. We'll be fine.
They had to hype themselves up a little bit.
We did have to hype ourselves up.
There's no shame in a little hype up before you walk into somewhere.
No. And so we got out of the car, came in, and we literally haven't missed a Bible study since that week. So, it's okay to be nervous, but once you come inside, you're going to be greeted by somebody.
Yes.
And if you're not greeted by one person, you're going to be greeted by, like, literally 7 people. Like, you're not going to walk in the room and not talk to anyone.
I always say, like, we have Feel the Smile set up where it's pretty hard to leave without someone talking to you. Now it's honestly pretty impossible with the way that we kind of, like, set up our flow time. But, I love that so much because even I always say, like, I lead a ministry that is community based, but I am an introvert. I refuel alone. I love my alone time. If I've not had my alone time, you do not want to be with me. And so even I have to like pep myself up to walk into spaces that I like don't know anyone or are just like kind of nervous to go into. So no shame. And if you're nervous to come, also I love that sometimes desperation pushes us to uncomfortable places and forces us to do things we may not have ever done. That's both good and bad. Mm-hmm. And we get to be the ones to choose whether those are going to be good or bad things. I love how you reached out to someone, or I guess Maggie reached out to you about like going to something together. I think sometimes we can get scared to like reach out to people we haven't talked to in a while because of what they're going to think of us, if they're going to think we're weird, if they're going to think we're like stalking them or whatever it may be. And I'm like, never be afraid to like ask someone to dinner, ask someone to coffee, ask someone to come with you to this Bible study. Because imagine if Maggie and Mattie had never come to Bible study together. Yeah. Their lives would probably be completely different because Maggie is also one of our key Feel the Smile girls too. And I'm like, I couldn't even imagine like the last 2 Feel the Smile semesters without y'all. And I just love how y'all's boldness and desperation channeled in the right way led to literally your life being changed forever and your community being impacted in such a powerful way. So I think that could be like a key takeaway for someone watching or listening, like, where are you feeling the Lord like leading you to press in and be bold? And how can you be obedient to that? Who can you invite into your life to be obedient with you in that? And who knows, your life like can never look the same because of it, which is so crazy. It is so crazy to think back to that first night of Bible study. I did stand outside probably like the first 30 minutes because we don't ever start on time, like waving girls inside because no one knew where to go. And then we met in my house like maybe 2 times before we kind of had to move because we couldn't fit anymore, which is just so crazy and such a blessing. But I love that so much. Okay, so you were able to find community at Feel the Smile. You weren't scared to come alone, even if you were a little bit. You said the yes, you made the jump. Okay, what does walking with Jesus look like now currently? Like, I'm talking practical. Like, do you read your Bible every day? Like, no shame in a yes or a no. What does it look like when you read the word? How do you like to spend time with God? Do you do it in the morning or at night? Like, think of this as a moment to encourage the girls on the other side of the screen that are listening and maybe feel alone. Like, I want to walk with God. I want to draw closer to him, but I don't really know how to do that. And I honestly feel like it's boring. So, like, how can I make that fun? Like, tell us a little bit about how you spend time with God.
Yes. So I feel like for me, I work a typical 8 to 5. So I'm up bright and early, and I'm at the office at 8 a.m., and I don't leave until 5. So
Real.
Spending time with Jesus is something that I do have to, like, be, like, very intentional about, because if I'm not, it doesn't make my day. And for me, I love spending time in my Bible, but some days it's just, like, it just can't happen. But I am such a big worshiper. I love my worship music. And I love to acknowledge his presence while I'm driving. And I think, hey, you don't get to open your Bible every single day. I do make intentional time for that. But I also love to just drive and be like, thank you, Jesus, for the leaves that are falling from that orange tree over there. Like, just acknowledging his presence and getting to feel how he might be moving. Like, I have a bad day. Let me take a deep breath and turn on my worship music on my way home and be like, okay, today was hard, but what are you showing me in this hard season? Or, even just a day that was great. And maybe I was like, hey, thank you for giving me a good day in the middle of a couple bad days, because I really needed that good one. So I think, I don't put a lot of pressure on myself to necessarily like have such a strict schedule with it, because for me, it's just, I'm acknowledging his presence and I feel him. And for me, that's what I need. And when I can open my Bible and read his word, great. I love days when I can just be like, okay, I can spend 45 minutes to an hour and it not be interrupted or feel like my eyes are closing on me.
For real.
But I love a worship song, especially, what's her name?
Abby Gimbo.
Yes.
Our queen.
Yes.
Abby,
my Spotify is her and Olivia Dean right now. So
good.
The perfect fall
What
mix.
a good combo. Abby Gimbo and Olivia Dean. I'm here for it.
Yes.
I love that so much, because walking with Jesus can look so many different ways, and I'm such a firm believer in that it does not have to look one way. The Bible didn't give us a blueprint as to what your time with God has to look like. I think the Bible like calls us to prioritize things, worshiping God, reading his word, and living a life full of prayer. And that can come alive in so many different ways in our walks with him. And I love a worship car session too. It is just one of my favorite things to do. And it just calls my heart higher. It helps me pause and just be undistracted. There's not really much else you can do when you're in the car other than like listen to music and try to think about Jesus.
Fills my cup.
It does. And you have to find what fills your cup and teaches you more about the presence of God, the word of God, and whatever that may be. I love that so much. Worship, it's one of my favorite ways to spend time with God. I'm very big on like, I want to read the verse of the day before I like scroll on Instagram. I want the first noise in my ears to be worship, not like some random TikTok sound, which I actually got on TikTok this morning before I got to have my worship time. And I was like, dang it, like now I've got like Sabrina Carpenter in my ears above Jesus. I also want to say, like, however you feel called to spend time with God, God is so worth making time for. And there's a verse that says, like, better is one day in your courts and 1,000 elsewhere. Like one moment in God's presence truly does change everything. And I feel so refreshed by that in moments of exhaustion or anxiousness or just feeling overwhelmed. I always stand in awe and surprised when I shouldn't be surprised at how much a moment in God's presence will just fill my cup. And I love that so much, Mattie. Thanks for sharing with us just a little bit of your faith journey, a little bit of more info behind your beautiful, joyful smile,
Yes.
and just how you walk with God. I know that it's going to encourage the girls that are listening and watching and just help us all feel more inspired to just take a step of faith in community in our journeys with the Lord. I'm so grateful to have you on.
Yes, I'm so glad I was able to be on.
Yes, we love y'all. We can't wait to be back next week with another YouTube video.